Hello and welcome to the new devlog for Special Space Forces. So this is going to be more of a developer playthrough, I suppose, than a devlog itself. We're basically just going to be going through the game as it is now. Charlie, the main developer of Special Space Forces, and today I'm going to run through our main menu and a couple of turns to show you what we already have in the game and a little bit of how the stuff works. So here we have our main menu. This is brand new, less than a week old, and it gives you a few buttons that you can hit. First of all, we'll go into the load regiment menu. So this is the simpler way to go about it. Essentially, when you create a game, you name the regiment, and then the regiment name becomes the save name of the file. You can load any previous games up from this menu. Obviously, any games that you start with the same name as the previous one will be overwritten. So 91st Special Action Regiment is the default. This one is always overwritten whenever you start a new save, but this one is an individual one that I've named separately. Currently there's no way to change the save name other than changing the name directly in the files, and they are stored under the location of Special Space Forces data in the resources folder, and there's a save folder in there. You can go in there and edit that. So we'll go back. The button that you probably first want to hit when you first come into the game is Found New Regiment. So this button takes us to the Customization screen, where we can begin the creation of our new regiment. When the screen first loads, we'll see the simple customization menu that I have here. This is just a quick cover-all menu that allows you to quickly change a few settings that really matter without getting bogged down in all of the settings that are available in the advanced customization just here. So here you can adjust the sector size, the number of stars that it starts with, and we can change the default colors of the force. Now all of these 5 colours are actually broken up more in the advanced menu, but we'll go over that a bit later. We can also change the regiment name. Obviously this is the save name as well, and if we just drop below here we have the number of troopers per squad, which we can freely adjust. So if we leave it at 10, that's the default that it comes with. This just uses the default template, so if you check the use of numbers template, it loads the default template with a number per squad. So some squads have 5 and some have 10. But if you just use this one, then every squad will have the number that you specify here. Just below we have the localization section. These are all replicated in the advanced menu, but this is all you will get. This allows you to edit the strings that you'll get in the game, or the string names that will be generated for troopers and hierarchy and slots and stuff like that. They're all quite self-explanatory. You just drop into the menu and just select the one that you want. On the right hand side of the screen we have the settings for our AI, which by default gives you 3 equally sized enemy races. Currently the race chosen doesn't really make any difference, other than the names of the systems, or the names of the empire that controls the systems. And the starting threat affects how many planets they're allocated on the game start. We'll cover that a bit more when we go into the advanced menu. So for a simple menu this is actually quite a lot to take in. But heading onto our advanced menu, we can actually click the advanced menu button, and it takes us straight to this screen. So this is essentially the same thing but broken up into even more detail. We have the sector height and width. We've got the number of stars here. We can actually change the number of planets per star here. And we can change the average size of planets. This affects how much industry they can fit on them and stuff like that. We have a chance of habitable planets. We have a chance of inhabited planets. These two are not mutually exclusive. You can have a non-habitable planet that does have population on it, but obviously you can also have habitable planets that don't have a population on it. And we also have resource abundancy for defaults on the planets. Skipping down, we have a new box. This is the player faction. First of all, we have the starting strength of the player factions. So at generation, the total number of stars is added together, and the total strength of all the factions get added together, and then we work out the percentage of the stars each empire will get. In the starting strength and threat drop-downs, the threat ones are for the AI, the starting strength is for the player faction. Each option in the drop-down gives plus 1 to your strength. So you start off at weak and it gives you 1, diminished gives you 2, average gives you 3, strong gives you 4, 5, from overpowered. You have the same thing in the AI, so you can actually change them all the way from 1 to 7 strength, which essentially means that you can be a very, very tiny empire, even if you're overpowered, if you're setting these guys high as well. So you want to set these up and down to allocate bigger empires and smaller empires. Maybe you just want to be a small empire, so you go on like a diminished strength and you set these guys to be medium, so they're all a little bit bigger than you. But essentially that's just how the strength works. This probably will be changed at some point, so it's a bit more dynamic and things, but for now this works. We also have our military focus and industry focus. They basically affect how fast the AI builds up its military and industry, self-explanatory, while xenophobia basically explains how they will treat alien races. So we have all the way from genocidal purist to space commies, which basically means you love all the aliens. Just below that we've got expansionism. This is kind of similar to xenophobia, but it relates to just the rate at which they will expand their borders and the rate at which they'll colonize other planets. And then below that we have funding, which essentially is how much of the global faction input or income from your sector you will receive as a regiment. In the middle we've got our hostile factions, and we've got the regiment name. Those are the same as the simple menu. And we have the force generation stuff over here. The only difference is you can now select your force template layout. So we have some helpful images that explain how many troops you'll actually start with as long as you use the defaults. I'm going to use the Special Action Regiment default because this is the one that I've most recently added. It's most up to date. Let's change our names. We've got English names, British hierarchy, and we'll have numbered slots. So if we go to our trooper customization, this is obviously completely new, and this is basically where the meat of my customization for your force happens. So you can either choose to load from template and use all the equipment that's given in the slot template. This is by far, if you're doing a custom regiment, the easiest way to do it, or the most efficient way to do it, is via a force template layout, creating your own one of these. But if we don't want to do that and we just want to go into the game quite quickly, we can just select a couple of pieces of gear. So comms helmets, and we'll give them some camo. Take the recon armor and UBAX fatigues. We'll give them camo too. And then this basically gives us a lot of color options that we can adjust through here. So essentially the way this works is it's just layers of sprites on top of each other that you color each individual layer. It allows us to create some quite nice color schemes and things. So I'll just quickly go through and do some changing. And then we have a nicely customized guy. That's pretty quick. So it's important to note that all of these things that you see here, they're actually all completely moddable. If I drop down this thing and go to the awesome source rifle, this file is not included by default in the game settings. It's actually added via an example mod. So you can use that as a template to create your own weapons and create your own equipment and stuff like that as well. There is a modding documentation guide thing in the zip folder, so if you want to go into that, it's not complete, but it does give you a bit of a hint on where to go. The thing we've got over here is a slot identifier. Basically what this does is it just lets you know at a glance where the slot or squad comes from. So this guy is part of 3rd Company, 3rd Platoon, 1st Squad. So we'll go on to our next screen, which is the same sort of thing, but for Voidcraft. We have the same colours here, so let's go and paste in some nice colours. So we have a similar looking, but there's some nice shiny things. So that looks quite good. We can change the type of cruiser or Voidcraft that we can see here. So we'll bring up the Hifrin cruiser. Allows us to see other patterns and what they'll look like on other craft. We also have our template fleet. Currently there's only the default fleet layout. You can create your own. In this you can actually specify your own Voidcraft. But I'm not sure how exactly, I'm not sure if that is buggy or broken yet, so please let me know, test that out. We can also change our Voidcraft names to British names and our fleet names to English names. The difference between British and English, I'm not really sure, but just stick with it for now. So, following that, let's hit our Start Generation button. So, once we've given it a couple of seconds to load, we're dropped in just above the home system in our newly generated sector. So this is our home system here. This little green icon here is a ship icon. It essentially just means that there is a fleet in the system that you can grab and take hold of. You'll be able to see red ones in enemy systems. It's important to note that all of the star names are actually in green. However, the faction name is in the faction's color below. So green usually means player, as you can see here. But for example, the Orcs territory is red, the Enslavers are yellow, and the Ivorian Empire is in blue. So let's open up our little icon here. This shows our Voidcraft movement screen. Let's pick out the first 3. These are all fast fire heavy destroyers, and we'll move them to another system. Let's just stick them to Gispa. because that's an enemy system. So we just hover over the planet once we've got this screen open, and it shows us how many turns we've got, and then we just right click and they disappear off the way. If we open this, you can see they have left. There is nothing that currently indicates on screen that they are moving, but they are moving, trust me. So while we wait for them to get there, let's go into Altair and have a look at our system. So sadly we only have one planet in this system. I probably should have set the generation a bit higher. But to note, there's a few things around that you can look at. First of all, obviously we've got the system name and the owner of the system. We have the output combined of all of the system's planets. This is actually a high amount. Usually you only see a couple of thousand. So this is an incredibly productive planet. You can see the planets across here. They go 1 through to 7 up there. And you can also see the star and what colour it is. At the bottom, we have a quick menu that allows us to select ships and move them between planets. Unfortunately, I can't do this here because I don't have any other planets. So I'll skip that and show you when the other guys get to their new system. If we open up this little button here, it's an up and down drop down, and it just allows you to see the void craft that are currently in the system. I don't know why it's displaying these ones. These should disappear any second. When I end a turn, they'll probably change. But these ones are the ones we're actually looking at. So we've got the Locust, the SX, and the Jupiter. The Jupiter is just there. They're just shown in a silhouette form here, or an outline form rather here. We have these buttons on the right hand side. We can see the capacity for how many troopers it can hold, and how many troopers are currently on board. We can see what fleet it's in, and we see its location. If we want to load some slots, we'll just press this button, and it actually shows us all of the slots available in the system. So if there is for example, if the Essex was moved to a different planet, you can still pick up slots or squads from a different planet in the system. However, if you are using the unload button, it only unloads to the planet that they are on. So these would just unload to Altair 1, but they could pick up from any planet in the system. So just for now, I'm going to grab first platoon. That's 30 individuals, and we'll grab second platoon 2, and that leaves us on board with first and second platoon of squads 1 to 3 in each. So we'll leave those on board, and let's go into the planet and actually have a look. So you guys have seen probably quite a lot of the planets and what they can do. However, there's some new features that I've added recently. They're actually quite cool and you should definitely check out. So first of all, we've got thunderstorms. If your planet has an atmosphere, it can have thunderstorms occurring on the surface. We also have shadows and lighting from the moon, so we can see the surface as the moon passes by, allowing us to see on oceans and stuff like that. You can actually see the outlines of the oceans and how the cities form around them. And of course we have all the information that's already been there about what the planet is, what their main exports are, what the size it is compared to the Earth, its population, and its resources. They're all on the left hand side. At the bottom we have this little menu that shows us the void craft that are around the planet. We can use this to go and view one of the void craft, but I'll do that in a second. On the right hand side we also have a military tab, which just gives you some garrison information and fleet information about all of the standard defences that the faction is providing. These are not your craft or ships, you will not have control of them. However, you probably will be able to interact with them at some point in the game, probably relatively soon as well. We can also see the actual breakdown of the planet's economy by usable surface landmass, the surface actually being used by industry, so 38 out of 84%, so this has quite a way it can build up and actually put more stuff on the planet's surface. We have the output that is consumed by the population, that's 61,000. And we have the total resource output, which is 115,000. So this essentially outputs a crazy amount, but because the population is so large, it's actually already taking a quite crazy amount away. So we actually end up with slightly less coming out than the population uses. However, that's not a problem because 58,000 is an incredible amount in this game. So, unfortunately, at the moment, we only show this Farsky Heavy Destroyer as like a. We only show the Farsky Heavy Destroyer 3D model. But it will change so that it shows all craft in future. So we press C to close this menu. Now that we're done in this menu, we can also press C to close this menu. And then we're back in the sector view. So let's have a quick look about what's going on in the sector view. We've got the force organisation and the fleet organisation. We have end turn, and we have the players the amount of player funds here. We also have this little square button here that is the helper screen. This is on many of the menus that you'll have, so you can actually press this and it brings up a little indicator of what everything is. So you can then just click again anywhere and it disappears. So if we go into our force organisation, this is the default organisation you start with if you just use the simple customization, or the Special Action Regiment standard layout. It just gives you 6 companies with a command battalion inside. Sorry, a command team inside a battalion. This shouldn't be a battalion. It should be the regiment. Don't know why it's saying that, but we'll move on. Probably because of the naming scheme that I chose. So let's just take a look inside. Let's go inside the battalion first of all. So you can see that this is mixed in location, and that's because some of the units have actually been taken away and moved to somewhere else. They've been put on board a starship. They've been put on board a voidcraft, so they currently aren't on the planet. However, 2nd Company through to 6th Company, they're all on the surface of the planet, so it just says that they're on the surface. Here we can see the command team, and here you can see that they have all of the setup equipment that I gave at the start, and this is because these guys do not exist within the slot template layout. These guys have been generated. That's why they have the gear that was given by default. So one of the most important things that we can do is we can actually move things around to form this in any structure that we want to use. So say we want to have an overstrength 1st Company in order that punches through and deals most of our threats for us, or maybe even divides out and gives the most experienced troopers to the other companies to use to form a core, a dependable unit that you can always rely on for the commanders of those units. So let's go to our 2nd Company. We'll take 3rd Platoon. If I go into 3rd Platoon, you have to have the screen here. This is how it works. So currently we have 3rd Platoon open, so we can see everything that's contained within 3rd Platoon. But when we interact up here, we actually interact inside 3rd Platoon, not with these ones directly below. So if I was to select Move 2, it drops down all of the slots that I can use within the force. It doesn't show any squads because you can't move to squads, and it gives you helpful little bars to indicate at what position they are actually in the hierarchy. So 1st Company broken down into 4 platoons, 2nd Company broken down into 4 platoons. Let's stick it just in 1st Company for now, so I'll just click 1st Company. It doesn't look like anything's happened. However, if you press the down arrow or back, then you can actually see you are now inside 1st Company, and we have 2 copies of 3rd Platoon. So once we've moved those slots around, let's just go into our 1st Company and actually have a look at a squad. So here we can see 1st Squad of 1st Company, 1st Platoon of 1st Company. They're currently on board the HMS Locust, which is where I stuck them earlier. And the most important thing that you can know is probably all of the menu options on the right hand side. However, for now, let's just go through and actually select some troopers and see what we can do. So we select the 1st trooper. We can add a trooper. We actually can't add a trooper, but you will be able to soon. This basically will be when you've recruited them, they'll go into a pool, and then you can spread them out amongst your squads and slots as you like, or you can set them to go into a default slot and kind of that be like a big company or something of conscripts or whatever you want to use. It's however you want to use it. It's up to you. We can transfer troopers to all of the squads within the entire regiment. We also have squad colours. In here we can just adjust it so each squad can have its own unique colour scheme or its own unique camouflage or whatever you wanted to have going into a battle, or you could just have it where you just set up each company to have variable colours. So if I was to copy the colours from this, and I just have to toggle on use squad, and all of their secondaries become blue, and go back and I can just copy this over to other squads in order to do the same thing. So the guy at the front, he's visible as the team commander, and blue represents that he is in the 1st Company. This can be used for so many things, so just go nuts with that. Let's take a quick look, let's take a more of an in-depth look at the gear we can do over here. We've got the same drop-downs that we had in the customization menu. However, we also have this squad role setting. So what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to create a new squad. I'm going to call it Platoon Command. I'm going to close that. I don't know what that was about. Currently we've got no one in here, so let's just grab some troopers. 3rd Squad, we'll grab these 5 guys, and we'll transfer them to Platoon Command. So 3rd Squad is now reduced in size, and if we go to Platoon Command, they now have the dudes in there. So, if we change the squad role, what it actually does is it affects the way that the unit acts in combat. Currently this obviously doesn't happen because combat isn't in yet, but it's what will happen in the future. So if you choose a command HQ team or a combat HQ team, they'll be more removed from the front line than a line unit or a support or elite unit. Obviously elite units are going to operate differently to line and differently from support to line and stuff. So for now, because it's a command role, we're actually going to take the combat HQ. The squad role drop down also influences the ranks that you can pick for troopers. So by default, private is always available for all troopers. However, if for example our main dude, Eleanor Evans, Dudette, sorry, if we want to make her a different rank, we can give her a lieutenant, captain or major. So let's say because she's a platoon commander, we'll go lieutenant, why not? And then we'll back out here. If I go into the line squad, you'll see that I don't have all of those options available, I just can go up to sergeant. So you need to use the command squads to actually create the functionality of command within your regiment. Ranks will have an impact on the battlefield depending on what rank they've been given and their leadership level. Currently leadership isn't even displayed as a stat, but leadership level will have an impact on whether or not they can effectively perform at that level. So for example, if you have a captain and who's not very good at leadership skills, he's not going to perform as well compared to someone who is a sergeant but has good leadership skills. The ranks will also provide bonuses to slots and squads around them. So a lieutenant actually provides a bonus to all of the squads within the slot that they are contained within. So the platoon command here, the lieutenant Eleanor Evans, will give a bonus to all of the squads within this platoon. However, some combat ranks such as lance corporal and corporal, they will only provide either bonuses to that squad member or they'll provide it to the squad. As you go higher up in the chain, obviously you want to be using higher up ranks because the lower down ranks don't give as good benefits and don't benefit as many people. So I'm going to close the force organisation chart now and we'll head into the fleet organisation, just have a quick look. So this is our fleet as it's set up, the first fleet and the main fleet's view. So the important difference between fleets and slots is that fleets cannot contain other fleets like slots can contain other slots. Fleets can only contain voidcraft. So if we go into the fleet, we can see all the voidcraft within it, and we can actually select them and see where they are and stuff. So we'll go to the volunteer. Currently it doesn't have a location because it's actually between stars. Let's go to the locust though. If we select the HMS locust, we can actually see all the squads contained within that voidcraft, and we can unload them manually from here if we want to, or we can just open the squad and view it in the force organisation chart. I won't do that because we've done plenty of that. At the bottom you can see the voidcraft stats, such as the armour and speed, obviously the location of where they are, and the weapons. Now these weapons can be changed within XML files to change any of these values because they currently don't do anything. But again, once combat is in the next version, we'll be able to interact with these in a meaningful way. It's important to note you can transfer craft between different fleets, and fleets can only actually hold 20 voidcraft maximum, so once they reach that number you'll have to create new fleets to be able to put more craft out into the galaxy. You can also change the fleet colours exactly the same as you can with the squad colours, and you can copy and paste them between fleets. So let's say we'll give this one a nice purple trim now. Use the fleet colours and no longer red. Okay, so we've looked at most of what is actually available, but we haven't actually ended a turn. So I'm going to end a turn now, and after a very, very brief load, we can actually have a look around and see if we've got any. There's one. This is what I was looking for. Here we can see a planet colonisation indicator, and this just basically says that there's a planet inside that system that is being colonised. Probably Ocronta 3. If we go and have a look at some other of our systems, we should be able to find if we go into some more systems, we can actually see the building icon just basically says they're also building on the planet. So if a planet is already populated, it can increase its built industry level up to the maximum level of built industry that we saw on the planet screen. So although we've done a little bit there, we haven't actually got the fleet across here yet. So we'll end the turn until that fleet icon appears. There we go, it's over here now. And if we go in here, we can see that this is enemy territory and currently not available to do. So you can't actually unload any troops onto hostile territory or pick them up from there. But you can actually, well, I can show you here the moving between systems. So they come in automatically at the first planet of the system, but then after that you can move them to wherever you like. So let's move them over to number 5, just that boy. It is important to note that eventually soon they'll be coming in at the star of the system rather than coming into the first planet, and this is to create a strategic layer, so you can blockade systems, prevent anything from leaving or entering, and it just means that you can center your defensive focuses around the stars, and once that defense is broken, you need to focus on the defense around the planets. If this doesn't work, there will be other methods implemented to circumnavigate that, such as maybe putting down warp nodes in order to jump straight to planets, or hyperspace lanes, other things like that, whatever we come up with to fix the problem. Quickly before I go, I'm just going to go to Gisper 5, and I'm going to quickly have a look at this planet and see where our little Voidcraft is. And I'm not using the most efficient method, so let's use that. There he is. He's flying around just at the north pole of the planet now. And that brings us to the end of our run-through. Our next priority, obviously as I've said previously in this video, is adding the narrative combat system, which makes it possible to fight your battles across the stars and begin the gameplay side of Special Space Force in earnest. Currently we have a lot in here, but it doesn't have a loop that you can circle round into and keep going through. And that's what we're planning to add next. And then from there we can add on more equipment, buying, selling equipment, recruiting troopers, all the different types of Voidcraft and all that sort of stuff. So this version has just gone up for testing. If you head over to our Discord server, you can actually download it, test it for us if you want to go and do that. You can find the link to our Discord on our website, which is www.bitsparkentertainment.co.uk. It's all linked in the description, so just go and check it out if you want to. If you don't want to test our game, but you do want to keep track of development, you can subscribe to our channel, or you can head to our Facebook or Instagram page, both linked in the description. So, all that's left for me to do is say thank you for watching. I hope you come and view Special Space Forces, and good luck, Generals.